Your car is basically a cross-border product. If the Detroit to Windsor crossing gets politically jammed, the costs don't stay at the border. They ripple into prices, jobs, and delays. On a normal weekday here, thousands of trucks race parts from factory to factory across the river, each delivery timed down to the hour. So how does a single bridge fight in Michigan and Ontario end up inside a window sticker price in Texas, or a repair bill in Ohio? On a Monday evening in February 2026, one social media post sent a chill through the heart of North America's auto trade. President Trump announced that the new Gordie Howe International Bridge would not open until, in his words, the United States was fully compensated and Canada showed fairness and respect. The statement landed like a wrench tossed into a running engine. For the thousands of workers and companies whose livelihoods depend on the Detroit-Windsor crossing, the message wasn't just politics. It was a warning shot over the flow of goods itself. The Gordie Howe Bridge, stretching 2.5 kilometers across the Detroit River, is funded almost entirely by Canada, with joint ownership shared between Canada and Michigan through the Windsor-Detroit Bridge Authority. But the final step, permission for full operation, rests with a United States presidential permit. That single lever, held in Washington, can determine when trucks roll and how fast parts move between factories. Within hours of the post, the White House confirmed the president's authority to amend or delay the permit. Canadian officials pointed to their full payment and shared oversight, while Michigan's governor called the bridge a really important part of our economy. A senior customs official explained the next steps. "We can't clear trucks until the port is certified and staffed. Even a short delay in that process means trucks back up, inspections stall, and the whole corridor slows down." Regardless of motives, the point is leverage. If a government can slow an opening, it can slow the flow. And for autos, flow is the product. Stretching from the edge of Detroit to the city lights of Windsor, the Detroit River is just over a mile wide. But in that short distance, the entire North American auto industry is stitched together. Michigan on one side of the river, Ontario on the other, and factories stitched together like one giant workshop. Each day, thousands of trucks cross those 2.5 kilometers, hauling everything from raw steel to finished engines, transmissions, and the sensors that keep modern cars running. Some parts cross the border 3, 5, even 7 times before a car is finished. It is not just one company's supply chain. This is a corridor packed with assembly plants, stamping lines, and part suppliers, all within a 2-hour drive of the river. The density is hard to grasp until you see it on a map. Clusters of plants, warehouses, and truck yards, all linked by highways that feed straight into the bridges and tunnels. On a typical day, more than 7,000 trucks roll through this corridor, carrying about a quarter of all Canada-US truck trade. For auto manufacturing, the border is not a finish line. It is a conveyor belt. When a single crossing slows down, it sends ripples through every workshop on both sides. The closer you look, the more it feels like one factory with a river running through the middle. That is why a political fight over a single bridge is not just local drama. It is a vulnerability that runs the length of the auto belt, from Windsor to Detroit and far beyond. A border fight like this does not hit car buyers overnight. There is a built-in cushion, an invisible shock absorber, between a problem at the bridge and a price change at the dealership. Most U.S. auto dealers keep around 60 to 90 days of new vehicles on their lots. That means even if trucks slow to a crawl at the border, buyers do not see empty lots or higher prices right away. Instead, sales teams draw down existing stock, moving cars from the lot to the driveway, while shipments behind the scenes get tangled in red tape. It is not just cars. Parts and repair shops depend on the same flow. Manufacturers and dealers use contracts that lock in pricing and deliveries for 30, 60, sometimes even 90 days ahead. These agreements act like a buffer, shielding consumers from sudden shocks. For a while, everything looks normal. Test drives continue, service bays stay busy, and price tags barely budge. But these cushions have limits. If a border slowdown lasts more than a few weeks, inventories start to thin out. Dealers may skip promotions or cut back on incentives. Repair shops might run low on critical parts, forcing delays or raising quotes. The lag between a border dispute and a higher bill at the counter can be weeks or even months, but once the buffer runs out, the impact rolls through quickly. That is why a single bridge dispute can feel distant at first, only to show up later in the form of fewer choices, longer waits, and eventually higher prices. Just-in-time manufacturing runs like a timed grocery delivery, not a pantry. Every part, from a seatbelt sensor to a wiring harness, is scheduled to arrive at the plant just hours before it is needed. When a border delay hits, the clock breaks. A supplier in Windsor describes the scramble this way: "If trucks get stuck, I am paying overtime. I am renting warehouse space, and I am sweating every hour." To keep lines moving, companies buy time, rushing parts by air, adding inventory buffers, or paying workers to wait. Those emergency moves cost real money. A logistics analyst puts it this way: when border weights spike, emergency freight premiums can jump 20 to 50%. You see it in the numbers. A chart with 3 lines shows wait times go up, emergency shipping spend go up, and factory output go down. That is where price pressure is born. The link is clear. The longer it takes to get parts across the river, the more everyone pays to keep the wheels turning. The costs do not stay in the corridor. They ripple outward, eventually reaching the sticker price on a new car or the bill for a repair. A scheduler at a Michigan assembly plant starts her day with a spreadsheet and a headache. She's counting on a shipment of sensors from Ontario that should have arrived overnight. But with trucks idling at the border, her line is now short by 78 units. That means 78 unfinished cars parked in a lot, workers waiting, and a phone call to logistics asking about emergency air freight. Every lost hour adds payroll and storage costs the plant never budgeted for. Out on the highway, a Windsor-based trucker sits in a slow-moving line. He's already lost one round trip today to a 2-hour wait at customs. That's one fewer load, less pay, and a tighter schedule for every stop down the line. Multiply that by thousands of drivers, and the cost of each delay grows. Trucking companies raise their rates, and the bill keeps moving downstream. At a Detroit repair shop, the owner prints out a receipt for a customer who's been waiting 3 days for a replacement sensor. The part was stuck in a border backlog. The final bill is $950, up from $400 last year. The extra cost covers overnight shipping, a loaner car, and hours of lost work. For the customer, it's not a debate about trade policy, it's a credit card charge they can't ignore. These are the first ripples of a border slowdown. The costs start on the factory floor, roll through the highways, and land in the hands of anyone who needs their car fixed or replaced. Each step is a real-world price for a problem that began with a single crossing. The story from here splits in two. One path leads to a smooth opening for the Gordie Howe Bridge, with trucks rolling on schedule and border weights reported to drop. That extra capacity tends to spread out the load, cutting down on last-minute freight premiums and making supply chains less jumpy. For car buyers and repair shops, that usually means steadier prices, fewer shortages, and less pressure to scramble for parts. The other path is less certain. If the bridge stays tangled in politics or paperwork, every delay forces more traffic onto the old crossings. Wait times often spike, emergency shipping costs rise, and the risk of shortages grows. That volatility pushes companies to pad their prices or limit options, and the effects can ripple out for months. For anyone watching from the outside, 4 public signals offer a window into what is happening behind the scenes. First, check the CBP border wait times feed for the Detroit to Windsor crossings. If average waits stay low, flow is holding. If they climb past 1 hour, costs are likely creeping up. Second, look for plant announcements or union bulletins about shift changes or downtime. These are early warnings that supply chains are straining. Third, watch spot freight indexes like DAT or freight waves. Sudden jumps in rates usually mean companies are paying more to keep parts moving. Finally, supplier alerts or part shortage bulletins from groups like MEMA can signal trouble ahead for repairs and replacements. Tracking these indicators will not stop the next price hike, but it can tell you where the pressure is building and how border reliability is quietly steering the cost and availability of every car on the road. Right now, one border crossing holds leverage over prices for millions. If a single bridge slows, the price ripple is not theory. It is your next car payment and your repair bill. For autos, flow is the product. The cost of delay travels farther than any truck ever could. Thanks for watching.